Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
Today, all the way from Toronto, Canada, Darryl Hurs is with us. Now, if you don't know who Darryl Hurs is, this guy's got a 25-year plus history in the music business, including launching and running one of Canada's largest indie music festivals and conference, Indie Week, which we're going to talk about here. He was also recently hired as the Director of Market Development for CD Baby there in Canada. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
It's good to have you on. Hey, crazy times for everybody in the world. We keep talking about this. But with that being said, let's talk about Indie Week. What is Indie Week all about?
Well, let's talk about what it normally is all about, because it's going to be different. So let's put it in a bullet point. Last year, we had 24 music venues in downtown Toronto. We had over 220 artists internationally performing and showcasing in those venues. We had 350 delegates. So what we really try to do is showcase emerging talent in front of music industry. And during the day, we have a conference where we focus on education, networking, business development, and also looking at how to grow internationally for artists. So that's what we normally do. And it usually takes place over 4 or 5 days in a hotel plus venues in person, great live experience. This year, we're moving online November 10th to the 14th. We're going to be basically putting our conference online. We were hoping to have some live performances, but as things are progressing in Ontario, our premier has recently announced that he's putting a pause on opening any further than we are now. And with liabilities and insurance, it's going to be virtual. As far as artists go, we do want to have them participate. We're going to mostly do artist pitch sessions. Artists that can pitch to buyers, festival programmers internationally, but all online, of course.
In the past, when you've done this, how many people would attend?
Over the week, probably around 11,000.
Okay.
You know, and a lot of our venues, you have to think it ranges from 50 people to 600 people to 800 people. And the conference is, like I said, it's all day, usually in a hotel.
It sounds a lot like how South by Southwest got its beginnings, but this has been running for how many years?
This is our 18th year.
You've obviously got something that is firmly embedded, it's running, it's on a smooth track, and then all of a sudden, you know, everybody hits the brakes. You've now got to turn this thing into a virtual world, which is not easy. I'm talking to some people here in Nashville, in fact, who are getting ready to do a conference. The exact same thing. Everybody's just going virtual. Has this been an easy transition for you, or has it been somewhat challenging?
Well, I'll be honest. At the start of all this, I just saw this is going to be, man, this is a hard thing. So we actually canceled this year. Right at the start of March, when this started happening, I'm like, no way. And then I saw that, okay, virtual can happen. And I started watching that and okay. And then I also saw that the music industry is one of the hardest hit industries. The artists, the local venues are struggling and they need something positive and we need community. So we kind of turned it around and said we have to do something. And we have to do a positive community building or be part of the community building for this. Because, yes, we're all going to make it out some way, shape, or form on the other side. It's much better if we have support from each other. So in a sort of longer answer than probably necessary is just that we also made it harder on ourselves because we canceled and then we re-announced, yes, we're going to do this. And
oh, man.
a little bit later than we normally would and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we're going through some road bumps on what platforms to use. We've kind of just narrowed it down now. It's interesting that all the software packages that you could use for this, normally they're also for in-person conferences, and they too have adjusted. So right when you find or think you found the right platform, you'll find little asterisk notes like, oh, this is launching in October, or this is coming in November. All these features don't exist yet, but they're coming. So it's taken some time to figure out the platform. And we're there. Like we're now building it, and we have a lot of announcements to come in the next 2 to 4 weeks.
I think the catch-up factor is probably something. It's that one. I don't know if vanguard is the right word. It's that one denominator that none of us took into consideration in the very beginning. And I talk about this a lot on the show. You know, the booking agents who we talked to in March who are saying, yeah, in September we'll be, you know, getting back on our feet and moving. And you talk to them now and they're like, yeah, we don't know, maybe 2021, we're hoping. We're in a whole different world. So is a conference like Indie Week, does this whole thing that's going on, the coronavirus and the world shutting down, especially from an entertainment standpoint, music business standpoint, does this become a much better benefit for the artist now that it's virtual?
I think so. And I'm trying to be positive, because why be negative, right?
Right.
Like I'm trying to, you know, look at the silver linings in all this. And I think that we have a much better opportunity to find our markets internationally during this time, start building the connections, start doing some market research, maybe some advertising, building audience, so that when there is a time to possibly tour, there's people actually waiting for you. And I think that this is a time to do that. I also think we are in a time that is like no other, and we don't necessarily know what it's going to look like. But what I can say is we have surveyed our audience, and 60% on average say that even when they say coronavirus is done and it's safe to go out, they're saying probably not going out for 6 months.
Wow.
Like, this is our survey, but also there's been a national survey that we have access to, and it says the same thing. So with that said, I think international touring, that's going to take a long time before we're okay to cross borders, and promoters are okay to book bands that are going to cross borders. So international touring is going to be very long before it gets back to any kind of normal. Even national touring within Canada, for instance, Canada is a really big country. And if artists don't have money now, they're definitely not going to pay to travel across our countries. So one, I think there's going to be a huge focus on local support for venues, local support for artists, and that community coming together to get through this together. So I think those shows will be the first basis on getting back to any kind of what we think of a normal is. During that time, people are doing these online concerts and online streams and stuff. I think those have the opportunity to get better. But, you know, coming from a festival that programs international artists, I look at this as I can get artists from many more countries to participate that I could before. They don't have to pay for a flight or hotel. They can connect with our businesses and so forth. So as an artist, I would be looking at, how do I connect with an international festival? Because next year, there's going to be a hybrid version for sure. And those festivals will also say, oh, I can get a band from a foreign country and not have to pay hotel and not have to pay airfare. I think that's going to be very inviting for all of us.
This hybrid version that you talk about, how do you envision that? Do you have some kind of perspective of what that's going to be?
It's like, let me dust off my crystal ball a little bit and let's see what it shakes up. It may look like a snow globe more than a crystal ball right now. I would say that, I sit on an international board with Sim Sao Paulo, the biggest music market conference in Latin America. This is a council of 50 delegates from around the world. So we're sharing knowledge. And the sentiment is we also want to produce events that are safe. That's our first. We don't want anybody to get hurt. We don't want anything to happen to somebody at one of our events. We would all be personally devastated if that happened. So we want to be able to know that it is safe before we can have people get together. And that even means flying on a plane. So I'm seeing that we're not in a rush. We want to do it safely. And in the meantime, all these software companies are getting better at producing online events. And I think delegates, artists are getting more used to being online. And what does that look like? And I think there's a lot of opinions. And I'll be honest, sometimes I have a saying where my opinion just doesn't matter. It's the kind of thing like if I said, I don't like Nickelback, and Chad from Nickelback would go, that's cool, I could buy an island. My opinion means nothing and it doesn't affect anything. But there's also generations, and I look at my girlfriend's kids who are 9 and 10, and they tune into concerts on Fortnite. And millions of people tune into concerts on Fortnite. And I'm like, what? This makes no sense to me. It's a 20-minute session. They have 4 guests somehow in those 20 minutes. And there's like 2 million people tuned in for 20 minutes and engaged. So one thing that I do say is we also need to look at the younger generation as to what they want. And some people may say, oh, but the production value. My girlfriend's kids have no clue what the production value is other than Fortnite. So I am also trying to look at what the younger generation is looking for and what are they engaging in, because that's going to be a part of our new future.
Yeah, I think that business model that none of us, as you said, that business model that we're all looking through that snow globe because the crystal ball just doesn't work. We don't really understand it yet. And I think, there's a certain perspective of that younger generation that we have to remember in some elements and some components, they're smarter than we are. And they're a lot more open-minded than we are. I mean, we're guys like you and I, we grew up in generations of let's pack, thousands of people into a venue and watch a show. And now it's that virtual thing, and maybe down the road it's avatars that become involved as, you create your avatar to go to the show and stand in front of a virtual stage. But it's that next generation that we need to focus on, and especially since they really haven't gotten into the live concert music scene yet. So they're open to anything, right? Yeah,
and there's even before this started, like at South by last year, all the talk was AI and VR, virtual reality, artificial intelligence. So we don't even know what that's going to look like when that kicks in heavily. Imagine if you have PlayStation VR and you could put a headset on and be backstage, side stage, front row, meet and greets, take your online selfie with artists and things like that. There's a lot that is coming. And I can guarantee you all those smart people in all those corporations, they're planning something right now.
Yeah.
And it's coming. We just got to keep our eyes and ears open and try to be a part of it as much as we can.
In the studio with us today, Darryl Hurs, who is the Director of Market Development for CD Baby in Canada, and is also the guy guilty, the founder and creator of running one of Canada's largest indie music festivals and conference. We're going to take a break, get a word in for our sponsor, and when we come back, we're going to have some more conversation with Darryl Hurs.
This is Royce Taylor, and I want you to listen to the Business Side of Music podcast with Bob Bender, and don't let me down.
You're listening to the Business Side of Music.
Hi, everyone. I'm Larry Butler, and I want to send you a free digital copy of my new book, The Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, 101 Ways to Help You Improve Your Chances of Success. That's right. Everything you need to know to launch your career as a singer-songwriter, all based on my 40 years in the live performance arena. And believe me, I've seen it all. In my book, you'll find the 10 things you have to deal with before even thinking about becoming a singer-songwriter performer. You'll also learn about the 5 things every singer-songwriter can do this weekend to make their live show better. 5 things I can guarantee that you are not doing already. Plus, there's tips on songwriting and staging, photo and video shoots, publishing, merch, dozens of other topics. all written for people who don't particularly like to read. And again, it's free. Just go to the Business Side of Music website homepage and look for my book cover. Click on it, and a free digital copy of my book will be yours. I'm Larry Butler, and I approve of this message. Thanks.
Hi, this is Tom Sabella, the creator, founder, and co-producer of the Business Side of Music podcast. It's loyal listeners such as yourself that make our podcast successful. Take the time to sign up for our weekly newsletter. Not only does it contain information on upcoming podcast episodes, but also informative tidbits on the music industry and even bonus items that we give away. All you have to do is sign up at businesssideofmusic.com and we will send you Larry Butler's new singer-songwriter rulebook. That's it. All you have to do is go to businesssideofmusic.com, sign up, and we will send you Larry Butler's new book. Thanks to all our loyal listeners. We love you.
You're listening to the Business Side of Music.
Back in the studio with us today, I don't want to say sitting across the console because this guy's in Toronto, Canada, which is a little bit away from us. Darryl Hurs is with us with Indie Week, who is also the Director of Market Development for CD Baby in Canada. And we're going to talk about CD Baby here in a minute and really what their platform is these days and where they kind of stand with everything that's going on. But with Indie Week, and you said about 11,000 people typically in attendance. Do you think you're going to get somewhere around that? And once again, get that snow globe out and shake it. But do you have any kind of an idea what kind of numbers you might be looking at for this year when you go virtual? I
would love if 11,000 people showed up, but I think also a big factor is going to be what's happening in the world today. Like there's a lot more possibly important discussions and events taking place than sitting in front of a computer. But with that said, we are definitely reaching out more globally than we've ever done before through our partners. So fingers crossed, 11,000 people show up. Let's hope for it.
I think we're in a situation these days, once again, where we just have to be a little more creative. We have to kind of figure out what's going to work and really take it for what it is. I do know that with the podcast here, we've been really getting a lot of response from people all over the world because we are listened to in 60 countries, 60 plus countries. We're finding out that people who aren't actively going out and going to a physical venue to see a performance are spending time in that virtual environment because we're seeing it with our numbers. Our numbers are up. People are spending more time listening to the shows. So I'm going to be that good news guy, or I'm going to be that guy that's the half glass full guy for you here. And I'm going to say, I would imagine you're going to have a pretty good turnout because everybody in this business who has any semblance of wanting to know how the business is operating, they're going to want to soak up anything and everything that they can. And that's something you guys can help provide, right?
Absolutely. And to comment on the number side, we actually, like when we sort of like, okay, we're going to do this. Remember I said we canceled and then said, yes, we're going to do it. We thought we have to do something immediately to help get the word out, but also help be part of the community. So we started a weekly online session creatively called Indie Weekly every Tuesday. And that's a free to attend. And we've had discussions on PR, on playlisting, what's going on in the world, producers. Like I mentioned Nickelback earlier. We had Dale Penner on, who produced Nickelback in the early days, along with Chris Burkett, who did the Copperhead Road album with Steve Earle. And so we're providing every week a way for artists to tune in, connect, hear from industry. And what we're seeing as a result is people are tuning in internationally that we're like, how are you finding out about this? Because this was all organic word of mouth.
Right.
But people from like Tel Aviv, from Belize, from Cuba, you name it, they've been tuning in. What we've seen is that they're tuning in loyally every single week. We're getting a base of the same amount of people plus new people. So I think you nailed it. Like people are online looking for information, but I think also community, like everybody's looking for somebody else to say it's going to be okay. And if they connect, they'll be okay together. And I think that's an important thing right now. And so we're hoping to be part of that in what we're programming as a positive message for artists on how to get through this, how to be ready for when it is ready to get to kind of a normal. Because I think a lot of artists might be sort of like, yes, they're tuning into things, but they're really focused on creating music. And it's kind of like, in normal days, you book a tour 6 months in advance. So we got to be looking forward and getting ready for, like, if once they say, okay, everything's good to go, you got to be ready to go. And we're hoping to help provide those connections and messaging.
And once again, it's going to be a different world. I'm not going to use the expression the new normal because we don't know what the new normal is. We don't even know what the normal is at this point. But the new world that's going to be out there for the entertainer, you better do your homework now and figure out, what exactly are my options. And then once again, I'm also going to say, as you said, we all need to have someone to tell us it's going to be okay. We've got to believe that, because the alternative is just not healthy, not only for the industry, but for ourselves individually.
Absolutely. And, I'll sort of say a thing that I've been saying a little bit lately is that, like, as a person who puts on these events, here's my list. And I also have a saying, is the car on fire? Because I literally have been on the road with a band and the car was on fire. So if car's not on fire, we're okay, period. But I've been in a car on fire. When I produced Indie Week in Ireland, I had a bomb scare in Belfast. I had a bomb go off 7 miles away from me in Belfast as well the night before that. I got stranded in Dublin with a couple bands because of an Iceland volcano that went off and no planes were allowed to fly for a week. I've had floods. I had the Queen show up in Ireland and all the security made it so no one could get to our venues. So now I can check global pandemic. So I've got a real good list. And the thing that I look at is I made it through all those other ones. This is another one. So that's one thing that I go off of. I try to go, okay, I've been through quite a bit of things. This is just another thing. And I think that through that experience, I can face it with positivity right now. I think I can face it with optimism right now. And I hope to share that.
Let's jump back to Indie Week for a minute. Do you have a calendar or an outline of people who sign up, what they can expect, certain types of speakers or performances, or what's the rough sketch of it right now?
We're hoping to announce it next week, truthfully. And one of the hurdles was that we were going with one software, and I didn't quite, like, the little asterisk next to the policy was that it runs, that you can program 72 hours online. It failed to say it meant 72 hours consecutively online, like 3 days in a row, 24 hours a day. And I was like, okay, so we've pivoted. That's a big word right now everyone's using, to a different online platform, and we're uploading everything right now to it so we could release it publicly. And putting this all together is not a small feat. Like, this is a lot, but I can tell you we've got different sort of tracks or channels. It's education, which is kind of like industry panels, workshops. We've got keynotes, we've got business development, and that's sort of more higher level businesses that you can connect with. We have international development, which is how to do business in different markets and territories, and then followed up with B2B networking with people from those territories. And we're also looking at artist pitches, where artists are able to pitch. And in this case, not live performance, but through video. So if you have like an official video and proper press kit, we'll connect you. And we're working on one full day of DIY sessions, which I'm really excited about. And that's literally how to do publishing, distribution, marketing, PR, playlisting, and so forth. So really how to get your business in order, how to connect with other markets, and what are businesses doing is really what we're looking at.
We're going to take another break, get another word in for one of our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to dig into CD Baby in Canada and what's going on with them. Darryl Hurs is with us today, and you're listening to another edition of...
Hi, this is Karina Rose Logston with High Fidelity, and I'm sitting here with my pal Bob Bender, sharing my expertise and wisdom here on the business side of music. Stay tuned.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hey, it's Chris SD from Sync Songwriter. Imagine what it would be like getting your music into the latest TV shows, movies, or ads. Your songs would not only get exposure in front of millions of viewers, you'd get paid to do it.
and gain a reputation as the songwriter that you are. I've been showing songwriters, composers, and artists how to get their music into TV and film for over 15 years. Collectively, they have generated hundreds of thousands of dollars from licensing their music. Their music has been on networks such as HBO, Bravo, ABC, NBC, Netflix, and more. In films or trailers such as Predator, Annihilation, Christmas Chronicles, Professor Mac, and many others. So many songwriters upload their music to websites hoping to get discovered. Unfortunately, this almost never happens with the millions of songs out there competing for attention. I show you how to get your music heard by the people who can actually make it happen for you. When you start getting your music licensed, you automatically develop a reputation in the industry. This lets you get syncs over and over again. If you'd like to discover how to connect with the right people in music licensing, just click the Sync Songwriter logo on the Business Side of Music webpage, and I'll see you there.
You're listening to the Business Side of Music.
Back in the studio here in Nashville, Tennessee, from Toronto, Canada, Darryl Hurs, who is with Indie Week, which is one of Canada's largest indie music festivals and conference, and is also the director of market development for CD Baby in Canada. Let's talk about CD Baby, because when CD Baby started, it was really that aggregator, that outlet for the indie artist to get a CD manufactured, get it out into a marketplace, whatever that marketplace was. That's obviously changed dramatically these days, I would assume.
You know, like I was around those days. I remember Derek Sivers. I was a musician at the time. And CD Baby, the logo literally was a CD with a baby's face on it. And it was really about, he had put his music online for sale. And all of us other artists were like, how did you do that? And so he started doing it for other artists. The catalog grew substantially. I remember this because I was the musician looking at it. They were the first ones to get indie music on iTunes because you had to be on a record label. And so that's kind of where it ended for me as a musician. And, you know, I started Indie Week and stuff. And I think that there's a bit of a gap as to what people know or think what CD Baby is sometimes. But really, it's about online distribution, getting music out to the world. And that means all the platforms like Spotify, YouTube, Apple, all the others that are similar like that around the world in different territories. So basically, online distribution. And then the other part is we do publishing administration, where artists can collect their royalties. And that's a big one. I really believe today is one of the best, you know, COVID and all this aside, this is literally the best time to be a musician. When I was an artist, I would have to go into a studio and it cost between $25 to $100 an hour, and then master the songs, which could be up to $1,000 per track, and then put everything onto a CD and sometimes hire a designer. So like you're looking at a $25,000, $30,000 investment just to get music that you can share. At that point, I remember music stores wouldn't take indie artists and a lot of radio stations wouldn't play indie artists. So then you're forced to go on the road and basically try to sell merch at shows. It's still kind of like that, but with the online platforms, you're distributed globally, worldwide, the second your music is out there. And you can collect royalties. And if you've put your metadata in properly, you're collecting from YouTube, you're collecting from Spotify. And sometimes people may say it doesn't necessarily equate to a lot. I look at it as it's a piece of the pie. And if you are doing it right, you're adding more pieces to that pie, and it does all add up.
Let's talk about metadata for a second, because that is something that I think most indie artists overlook. And what you just said, well, I'm not going to make a lot of money. Is it worth the effort? Look, pennies are still pennies, and pennies eventually add up to dollars, especially if you have enough pieces out there. You shouldn't overlook that.
No, not at all. And sometimes we look at the present day too much, and because we can't predict the future. So another arm of CD Baby is like sync placement in TV shows and movies and such. And our team has done a great job. You know, the last season of Stranger Things, some of the music is a CD Baby artist. And it's music made from, I think it was like the 90s. So this is the thing, is that your music is, you know, it's like your children. They go off, and you never know what exactly is they're going to end up in 20 years, but they might make money for you. Like, this is the thing. Your songs might make you future money, and you don't know that yet. But what I can guarantee is if you don't put in the data, it won't make you any money, possibly. And so that's the thing, is like the metadata and putting it all together is really crucial. In placements and stuff, things are a lot better because it's digital. I was working with an artist from Ireland years ago. We licensed half their album to a soap opera, and we were wondering where the royalties are because we weren't getting paid. And when it came down to it, we finally got down to the call sheet that whoever was in the studio put together. And I don't know if it's on purpose, but every song title was written incorrectly. And so like eventually the artist did get paid, but I think it was worth around $35,000. But just imagine if you have that money sitting somewhere and you don't even know it exists and you're not collecting. And nowadays in the digital world, you have to put your metadata in properly, and that's how you're going to collect your money.
My wife and I, a month or so ago, started watching a series on Amazon called Bosch, and we just got into it. And one of the things I love about it, because I'm a huge jazz buff, is they started playing some of this great, almost forgotten jazz artists. You know, people like Art Pepper on there and Sonny Rollins. And I'm going, man, that's such great music. And you start looking it up. I mean, it's music that was released it was released 40, 50, 60 years ago that's now made a comeback and a resurgence. So, yeah, you've got to get out of that box of thinking this is for today or maybe tomorrow, and think about that whatever you're doing is long term.
That's right. And, going back a little bit, my era of when I was in bands, it's almost lost because it was that cusp of CD to digital. And a lot of indie bands, they weren't with record labels or indie labels even, so there's no catalog of it. A lot of them had broken up right before the digital started happening, so it's not even online, right? So you can't even access any of this music. And it's funny, an old bass player of a band I used to be in actually hit me up this weekend saying, hey, I'm thinking of uploading our music. And it's like, because our music doesn't exist anywhere. So that's the one thing now with the digital world, you got to think when you're uploading it, it's for life, unless it's with some sort of deal that changes and that's taken down, or you decide to take it down. But the ultimate thing is like, man, if you're adding to your catalog every year, that's volume. A little, again, more pieces of the pie. And the more you add, the more you can make potentially. And I'm, again, being optimistic. If one song takes, everybody looks at the back catalog. Everybody will go through the deep dive and start going through the back catalog. And that's the thing, is like, if something hits, everybody looks for what else do you have?
Yeah, I agree. How can people find out about Indie Week, and what's the cost?
Indie Week, basically indieweek.com, INDIEWEEK.com. Tickets, we haven't announced a sale yet. We're trying to keep it under $50. It's all based off of how much it's costing us to put it on. These platforms is per attendee. So even if we do like free tickets, we're paying out of pocket for them. And it's averaging, I'd say, about $8 to $13 just for a person to show up, not including like staff costs, marketing, and blah, blah, blah. But we're trying to keep the ticket under $50. We're also trying still to have a free portion of it because we just want the information out there for people. We don't want to put barriers up, and we know people are hurting right now. So we are going to have a free portion. But indieweek.com, INDIEWEEK. And also to remember, every Tuesday we've got Indie Weekly, which is free, and that registration is also at Indie Week.
And we will include all of that on our show notes so people know where to look.
Perfect.
Darryl, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. This is great, man. I love your energy, and I love this. Like, again, talking shop, and it's great. So thank you for having me here.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.